What's the crack, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. In today's video I'm going to be talking about the books that I am most excited for the rest of the year. Now, I know that there are a lot of books going to be released between now and December 2020, and I spent a lot of time on Goodreads just scrolling through and scrolling through and scrolling through all of them. There are a lot. But I'm here to talk about the 15 books that I am most excited for. Ironically, the first one that I'm going to talk about is one that has been released already and has been out for a week, but my copy has not arrived yet. Yet my patience was running out for the arrival of that book, so I bought the ebook and I've been reading it, but still I'm more anticipating the actual physical copy arriving here, and that is for Aurora Burning by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, which is the second book in the Aurora cycle. I read Aurora Rising last year, I think it was, and I've reread it again this month in anticipation of Aurora Burning, and it follows straight after the events of Aurora Rising. If you don't know what that book is about, it is basically set in the 24th century. It starts off with Tyler Jones, who is a Legionnaire. He is just graduating and he has the chance to pick the top people for his flight squad. However, the night before the draft, he rescues Aurora from cryosleep on an abandoned ship called the Hadfield. She has been in cryostasis for 220 years. He rescues her, misses the draft, and ends up with the dregs, which are the ones that nobody picked for their squad. They're a mismatched bunch of people. They are sass. They are the ones that have had the most disciplinary actions taken against them by the Aurora Legion, yet they fit together so perfectly. However, Aurora then has these abilities that nobody can explain because she's been in cryosleep for 220 years. Of course, shit hits the fan, and it's an incredible adventure, and it'll kick me in the feels just as much as Aurora Rising did. The next book I'm going to talk about is Heist of Dragons by Jessica Cluess. This is actually released on the day that I'm filming this, May 12th, and again I haven't got a dispatch notification. I read Jessica's, I think, debut novel, A Shadow Bright and Burning, I think it was called. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I loved the magic in it, and I probably got more out of it than anybody probably did because it had characters and themes that reminded me of Sanctuary, which was one of my favorite television shows and one that I talk about a lot on this channel. Our next foray is a new series called the Heist of Dragons. It follows a kingdom where the emperor has died, and usually the throne goes to the eldest child. But in this situation, 5 royal houses then vie for the throne. Of those 5 houses, one is a thief, one is a liar, one is a soldier, one is a servant, and one is a murderer. The liar is Amelia, but she has to hide her magic abilities or die. The soldier is Lucien, who vowed never to pick up a sword again. The servant is Vesper, and she has this ability and knowledge, and she's a dragon trainer, and so all of those abilities are things that could help her seize the throne. The thief is Ajax, and he knows that nothing comes for free, and so he's prepared to do what is necessary to get the throne. And finally is the murderer, who is Hyperia, who was born to rule and will do anything it takes to seize the throne. What excites me about this most is the most fickle reason ever, and that is Emilia. It is spelled E-M-I-L-I-A, which is the way that Emilia Fox spells her name. Basically, if one of your characters is called Emilia, I'm going to be immediately sold. Like with Falling Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes, I didn't realize that one of the princesses was called Emilia. Emilia, spelling, dragons, people vying for a throne, sign me up. These are in no particular order, by the way, because I wrote them all down and I didn't put them in chronological order. So it's going to be all over the place, just like me. Coming out on the 29th of September is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I've never read anything by Naomi Novik. I do have Uprooted and Spinning Silver on my want to read list on Goodreads. I just have not got around to actually buying either of them. This centers around a school where there are no rules. There are no teachers, there are no holidays, there are no grades, and failure equals certain death. You only leave this school by graduating or dying. Enter Elle, who has this dark magical power that has the ability to destroy mountains and to destroy the monsters that roam the halls and kill the other students. But the problem is, these abilities that she has can also kill all of the students. So it's kind of like unfair advantage, because if she could just waltz in there, kill everybody, and graduate. But this school sounds pretty sick, and I think it's going to be pretty damn dark. This comes as no surprise, because I think everybody and their mother is going to be talking about this book, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Victoria has been working on this book for ages. She had the idea a lack of years ago, but she didn't have the confidence to actually write it. She didn't think she was ready to actually pen this book until I think last year or the year before, and she has been like on Twitter and Instagram documenting the entire thing and like the angst that she's going through writing this. And she loves this book so much because she feels like so much of this book is a part of her, and that she is so much a part of this book in return. It follows the character of Addie LaRue, who makes a deal with the devil for an immortal life. But the caveat of that deal is that whenever she meets somebody, they are destined to forget her. So whenever she goes through her life and she sees people that she knows, they will never remember her. They will never know her name. That interests me so much because I really love stories that deal with immortal characters, or characters that have a very, very slow rate of aging, like Wolverine, like Helen Magnus, like the character in Matt Haig's How to Stop Time. You cannot live that kind of a life and have normal relationships. You just can't, because then people get suspicious, especially with the age that Addie LaRue is. In the time where she was young and throughout the prevailing centuries, of course people are going to be like witchcraft, they're going to be like demonry, sorcery, they're going to then persecute her. So you can't have normal relationships, and so when people forget who you are mere hours after kind of you walk away, how does she adapt? How does she cope with that on a mental level? Like even right now in a pandemic that we are currently in, social distancing has its psychological effects, because you can't see your friends, you can't see your family if you don't live with them. It has a psychological effect. And what kind of psychological effect would this have on Addie LaRue when people that she cares about do not know who she is and cannot remember who she is? It's going to be an interesting read. That is going to be released on the 6th of October. Coming in on June 16th is Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston. This is the third book in the Once Upon a Con series, which I have been loving. I love that series so much because of the fangirl aspect of it. I loved Geekerella. I loved the Princess and the Fangirl, which are just sitting right here. You might not see them off camera. They are all fairy tale retellings. The first one is Cinderella, the second one is The Prince and the Pauper, and then this third one is obviously Beauty and the Beast. It follows the character of Rosie, who is struggling with her life at the moment. She's struggling with college entrance essays. She's also grieving the death of her mother. She finds solace in her mother's library and finds her old Starfield novels that were written for the television show that she absolutely loved called Starfield, which is like a Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, all of these sci-fi shows meshed into one. However, to pay for medical bills, the books are sold. Enter Vance Raines, who is Hollywood royalty. I think he was in Starfield. I can't remember if he was part of the Starfield reboot that happened in Geekerella. Due to a scandal, he's had to leave Hollywood and go to small town USA to write it out. That's where he meets Rosie, and they do not have the best introductions to each other. They hate each other right off the bat. They do not get along. However, something happens and then they are forced to get to know each other, just like Beauty and the Beast. Belle never liked the Beast to begin with. It's not exactly Stockholm Syndrome going on in Bookish and the Beast, but if it's anything like Geekerella and The Princess and the Pauper, I'm going to love this, especially when it has like the little fangirly aspects to it, and they talk about Starfield and they just geek out about their favourite shows. I am going to be living for that. Next is Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco. I have only read Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerry. I do own Hunting Prince Dracula, and I probably will get Escaping from Houdini and Hunting the Devil or something. I can't remember what the name of the last one is. So whenever I heard about this new series, I was definitely intrigued. It follows twin witches Emilia and Vittoria. Emilia spelled Emila again. I swear it is the year of Emilia characters. I am living for it. These witches are living amongst humans and trying to keep their heads down so that nobody finds out that they are witches. However, Emilia finds Vittoria brutally murdered and she vows vengeance on her sister's murder. Enter Wrath, one of the princes of evil, and he is then compelled to help Emilia solve this murder and the murder of other women on their island. And this is the tagline from the synopsis on Goodreads. When it comes to the wicked, nothing is as it seems. Yes. Twin witches, and one of them being called Emilia and Vittoria. It has like this Italian vibe going with it. I'm very much excited for this book, and especially the cover. It is gorgeous. And that is coming out on the 26th of November. Coming out on the 19th of May is a book that I'm very much anticipating, and that is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This is a prequel to The Hunger Games, and it follows President Snow when he was in the Hunger Games. I think he's in the Hunger Games, or he is one of the mentors. But he, I think, falls in love with his protege for the Hunger Games, and he tries to do everything in his power to kind of stop her from dying. I'm not 100% certain. All I know is that it follows President Snow. I personally love President Snow. I love a good bad guy, and he is definitely a bad guy. I loved his character when I was reading the Hunger Games. I love to hate him. He is just awesome. So I'm very much looking forward to reading this book and seeing Donald Sutherland in my head as President Snow before he was President Snow. On June 11th is The Court of Miracles by Kester Grant. This is penned as Les Mis meets Six of Crows. In the aftermath of the French Revolution, this follows a young thief called Eponine, or Nina, as she's been referred to in this book, as she goes into the underbelly of the criminal world of Paris and the guilds within it. She is trying to save her adopted sister, Cosette, or Etty as she's been referred to in this book, from falling into the grasps of the Tiger, who is the head of the Guild of the Flesh, whilst at the same time she's been thrown into the underbelly of the glittering court of Louis XVII. So Nina is faced with two options: either to protect her sister Etty from the court of Louis XIV, or to lose her to the Guild of the Flesh, the head guy to the Tiger. This sounds amazing. I actually have never read or watched Les Mis in any shape or form. It is shameful. A part of me really wants to, but then also part of me is just like, nah, I'm good. But this book sounds so fascinating, and the cover is freaking spectacular. I have pre-ordered the hardback edition from Waterstones with sprayed edges, and oh my god, it looks incredible. Coming out on September 3rd is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. Richard Osman, as people in the UK will know, he has his own game show called House of Cards, and he is the one that knows everything on Pointless with Alexander Armstrong, and he is coming out with his debut novel. This follows 4 octogenarians in their peaceful retirement village, where once a week they come together and investigate unsolved murders. Then they come face to face with a real life case when a property developer is killed. They band together and try to figure out who the killer is before it's too late. I'm very much looking forward to this because I do love Richard Osman. He is very witty, he is very articulate, and I just want to support him in his new venture into writing. On August 20th sees Matt Haig's new book, The Midnight Library, come out. I am very much looking forward to this one because at the end of the universe there is this library with infinite books, and each book has a story of your life, but also it has a corresponding book which has your life, but the storyline is different because your choices have been different. It's like the multiverse situation. It's kind of like parallel universes, but in a book. The lead character, Nora Seed, sees her book and is faced with the choice of whether or not she would actually go back and change things about her life. Will she choose a different career? Will she undo breakups? Will she do this? Will she do that? If she's faced with the option to change her life, if she knew what would happen if she chose this instead. It really begs the question of what will truly make your life fulfilling and what makes it worth it, what makes your life worth it. And I find that so fascinating that if you knew what your life would be like, would you do it, or would you stay on the path that you are on? Coming out on November 10th is Love and Olives by Jenna Evans Welsh. I have not read a single book by Jenna Evans Welsh. I do own Love and Gelato on my iPad, and I started reading it a couple of years ago on my phone when I was at work, and I just had time on my break. I started reading it. I enjoyed the first couple of chapters that I managed to read. I haven't read Love and Luck, but Love and Olives does intrigue me because it is set in Greece. This would not have been on my radar had Hayley in Bookland not talked about it in her recent anticipated reads video. It's set in Greece, Santorini specifically. It follows a character called Evie who has not had the best relationship with her father, who left for Greece when she was 8 years old. Which shocked her because they had similar interests in Greek myths and the lost city of Atlantis. Fast forward to today and she gets a postcard from her father saying that a documentary crew are filming in Santorini about Atlantis. One of the theories of Atlantis is that Santorini was Atlantis and that the volcano eruption that created Santorini created the croissant shape of Santorini, and the caldera that is where all the water is, it was Atlantis because of the eruption was so great. I think it was Pluto or Aristotle, one of the great philosophers, talked about this great eruption around the time that Atlantis was lost, and so the theory is that around Santorini is where Atlantis was. Evie then decides to go to Santorini to try to mend the rift with her father. Once there, she realizes that Atlantis may not be the only reason for her father's invitation to come to Santorini. I have been to Santorini several times. I love it. I love the whitewashed buildings, the blue domes, the view. It is as spectacular as people say. I will say that the queue for the cable car is not as spectacular. And if you go down all of the 200 and whatever steps down to the bottom of the cliff face, your legs will be jelly, because I've done it twice and my legs are jelly at the bottom. I'm not holding my breath for this one, and that is The Winds of Winter by George R.R. Martin. Not holding my breath for it because we have been told we're getting this book for I don't know how many years now. Not holding my breath. It is the next book in A Song of Ice and Fire after A Dance with Dragons, and I think we have this book and then another one to go. I am like, please hurry up, George. Get cracking. Throughout the pandemic, he has been updating his blog and his newsletter, and he has been saying that he has been working quite hard on The Winds of Winter. You're no spring chicken, dear, so please give us the end. I very much appreciate it. Coming out on the 23rd of June is one that's kind of out of left field, and that is Seasons of the Storm by Ellie Cosimano. This follows the character of Jack Summers, and he has been given a choice to either follow the ancient rulings of Gaia or die. Obviously, he chooses to stay alive, and he is then turned into the physical embodiment of the Earth season of winter. However, in this land, the seasons have to battle the one that came before them. Like, spring battles winter, winter battles summer, or like things like spring battles winter, winter battles autumn, that kind of deal. Jack falls in love with Fleur, who is a spring elemental being. To be able to be together, they kind of have to break this cycle that Gaia has created. I'm not usually one for romances, but this one seems to have kind of like a fantastical aspect to it that intrigues me. It's definitely lower on my anticipation for the year, but nevertheless, it's there. Coming out on October 1st is The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. He is the author of The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. The original title for that was The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, but everybody kept confusing it with The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and so they had to put the half on it, which is, I think, stupid. Nevertheless, this follows this great detective set in 1634, and he is being transported to Amsterdam to be executed for a crime that he may or may not have committed. So he's on the ship with his bodyguard, and things start happening on the ship as soon as they set sail. People start dying, livestock starts being killed, everything starts to happen, but he is under lock and key, and so his bodyguard is the only person that can solve this mystery that is going on aboard ship. It sounds interesting. It sounds like a really cool graphic murder mystery. He writes adult books, so I'm actually very intrigued for this. And it'll probably be my first Stuart Turton book, even though half the time when I was in Waterstones I did want to pick up The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle before they changed the title. And the last book on this list, I have no idea how long this video is going to be, so thank you so much for getting to this point. I promise this is the last book on this list. And on the 8th of September is the Autobiography of Kathryn Janeway by Una McCormick. I am very excited for this. The other year they came out with the Autobiography of Jean-Luc Picard. Not so interested in that because Picard is not my favourite. Kathryn Janeway is. I completely forgot that this was a thing until I was looking through Forbidden Planet's website trying to see what was coming next. This book came up. Instantly intrigued. It's the Autobiography of Kathryn Janeway. I have no idea what it's about. There's not much of a synopsis for it. I just hope that it doesn't go against everything that Jerry Taylor has already given us in the Mosaic book that she wrote when Voyager was created, because Jerry Taylor is the one that created Kathryn Janeway. Definitely intrigued for this. Cannot wait. Kathryn Janeway is like my favourite character of life. I love her. So anything to do with her, I am going to be there for it. So there you have it, guys. Those are the 15 books that I am most anticipating for 2020. I think this video is going to be very, very long. I hope that you guys liked it. Let me know in the comments down below what books you are anticipating. Are any of these on your list? What is on your list? Thank you guys so much for watching and for getting to the end. If you've gotten this far, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!